what I used to do was that I used to plan out. I used to wake up pretty early. I used to wake up somewhere around 7:30 ish, and I used to create a schedule for the day, that what I would be working on and how I would manage my time. So when my shift used to start, I tried to complete most of the tasks in the first half of the day. So that second half of the day, I get times to handle meetings and stuff. And other than meetings, if I'm getting a break of, say, let's say 30 minutes or 45 minutes back in that time period gap, I used to complete the assignments and the video lectures that were there on the portals.
We have Abhigyan. He'll be telling his story, okay, and also some tips and tricks which will actually help you guys, okay, to also crack such offers. Yeah. So yeah, Abhigyan, you can go ahead and tell us some of the important tips and tricks. Yeah.
Sure. Hello, everyone. As you know, my name is Abhinjan Acharya. I pursued my bachelor's in engineering in mechanical engineering. So in mechanical engineering, by the time I was in my second year, I kind of realized that it's something that I was not really enjoying studying. So I kind of shifted towards computer science. I had like basic knowledge of programming from my school, because I had a computer science background back in school. So post that, I started studying computer science basics, the subjects on my own, like data structure, algorithms, computer networks, and then operating systems on my own. But then, so what happened in my fourth year was that in my college, there is like a placement cap that they put, that only only the computer science students and the students from who are in electronics and computer science branch can opt for the software based companies. So not a lot of mechanical guys got an opportunity to pursue their dream career in the good IT industries. So we were allowed to sit for mainly the service based companies. And as you might have heard, that service based companies, what happened in service based companies is that they mostly have pre-built softwares in these companies. And the main role for the engineers is to customize and implement those pre-built software. So it is not something where I was getting a good feel of the subject. I was not getting to innovate much. So that was the main reason why I thought that it's the right time to do a switch right now. So I got to know about Sharpener back, I think, during the month of August or September. So I was thinking if I should be joining or not. But then I decided that why not? Let's give this a shot. Let's see what I can learn new. So yeah, that's all about me. That's how I started my journey with Sharpener. Yeah, that's all.
Megan, if you could let the people know, like, which company were you working for, and like how many months have you worked with that company?
Sure. I was working in Accenture. I was working as an associate software engineer. But mainly as an associate software engineer, I was mainly dealing with the cloud services. I was mainly dealing with how to implement Pega-based softwares on cloud platforms. So that is something that I was working on. But before that, I did some internships, although those were not particularly, it was not like, I was not coding much in those programs, whereas I was in Amazon, I was developing more or less like machine learning algorithms. And before that, I was working in a fintech startup where I was more or less creating small scale automation tools. So that is what I've done. And in Accenture, I have like worked for almost like 6 or 7 months when I finally decided to switch.
Pretty exciting. Yeah. So I think this is a common trap for a lot of people, as in, like, they get into service-based companies and then they are offered associate software engineer roles, in which they're not taught in which they don't do a lot of software development, but they put into a lot of tools or like some cloud deployments. And like, I just like feel a little weird. Like, there are times when like cloud deployment is a part of software engineering only, but then since these companies have so many like services running up, that's why they have this like separate domain altogether called like cloud
Correct.
DevOps, where
Correct.
like people who like where they put people who don't have that much of knowledge into like software development, they put them over there, and they expect like people to basically deliver also, as in like you're understanding, right? Like you might not be knowing that much about software development, and then you're like you're making the entire cloud pipelines, and like you're kind of doing the end-to-end lot of things. Okay, so a lot of things depend on people like you and like the cloud and DevOps engineer. So yeah, like, but yeah, in the end of the game, like you don't understand a lot of things. Like it's a lot of reiterating things. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like you're
Correct,
doing
correct, correct.
again
Yeah,
and again.
same monotonous tasks again and again, and they had this specific rule book which we had to follow. So
Okay.
we were like instructed that we have to like do in complete accordance to the rule book. So there was like no scope for us as engineers to like try out new CI/CD pipelines or new methods to deploy a software. So we had to go with one fixed method. So that I kind of felt was like limiting our scope as engineers to innovate and create better services. So that is the main issue that I had.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Sure. We'll discuss more about this. So, guys, the structure we'll keep for today's session would be like we'll talk a little bit about Abhigyan, the resume preparation, and all these type of things. And then Abhigyan would be open to like take up questions from you guys. Okay. So we'll take up the questions, all the questions, like after like say 20 minutes or so. Like yeah, mostly 20 to 25 minutes more we'll be taking. And we have some set of questions which we'll be asking to Abhigyan, and then you guys can take over, right? Yeah. So, Abhigan, now, like, yeah, we would love to know a little bit more about you, as in, like, like, apart from coding. So, like, what is your coding structure? As in, like, so when you were working, like, when you were with Sharpener, okay. So you also had a job which was running, and then you also had like your Sharpener thingy running, okay. Like, you
Right.
were one of the brightest students. Like you were one of the most hardworking students which we had. Like, so you by hardworking, I mean like you were obviously taking on a lot more time, okay, like maybe 3 to 4 hours a day. So can you just brief us about what your schedule was, like when you also had Sharpener and also you had your job?
Right. So during my days in Accenture, my shift used to start from 8, and I used to try to complete my shifts somewhere around 7:30 in the evening. So what I used to do was that I used to plan out. I used to wake up pretty early. I used to wake up somewhere around 7:30 ish, and I used to create a schedule for the day, that what I would be working on and how I would manage my time. So when my shift used to start, I tried to complete most of the tasks in the first half of the day. So that second half of the day, I get times to handle meetings and stuff. And other than meetings, if I'm getting a break of, say, let's say 30 minutes or 45 minutes back in that time period gap, I used to complete the assignments and the video lectures that were there on the portal. So that is how I kind of approached. And then after my shift ended, my complete dedication was to lead code and completing the Sharpener assignments. So I think I used to complete all my tasks by 3:30 in the morning, which was pretty late. And I advise you not to do it, because I mean it would take definitely a toll on your health. But then I did it because I kind of managed. I felt good. I kind of got the rush while coding. So yeah, that's how I managed my entire time structure.
But then how did you manage to like get away with only 4 to 5 hours of sleep? Like you were taking a small nap in between, or like how was
No,
it?
no, 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 no. So that's what. So I can like adjust my body accordingly. If requires, I have slept like 2 hours, and I have like continued walking for something. So I can adjust my body. So that is one good thing. That but then during the end, I mean, Yash bhai would obviously know that I was actually facing some health issues. My body was starting to like give up.
So yeah, guys, like, like yeah, people like obviously take this advice with discretion. I'll say.
Not recommended at all.
But yeah, definitely like very hardworking. That is
Correct.
like undoubtedly that is one of the thing which has worked for Abhigyan, I think so. Very hardworking. Yeah. Yeah, Kaustubh, you can go next, I think so. Like I think you have some sort of questions you want to ask.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand. So I just uh, right now I didn't know that he used to stay up at 3:30 and everything. But I'm pretty sure like there must be a recommended cycle for everyone. Like how many hours should you put in? What would you advise to people? How many hours should you put in for people of
Right.
your skill set?
Right. So if someone is still in college, I don't think it is, advisable to stay up till 3. You can close everything by, your studies and sharpener assignments, and even if you like take part in lead code and other contests. So I think you can manage time within 10:30 at night. It is easily manageable if you're in college, but if you're in, if you're working somewhere and if you have to parallelly manage two things at a time, I think it is manageable. If you stay up till like 1 a.m. or at max 2, it is not recommended to stay up till 3 or 4. Just because that I was what happened during my time was that I was completing like since I came from a DSA background, I had taken part in some coding contests beforehand. So that is why I used to like try to push my rank in lead code. I was trying to push my rank as well. So that is one main thing why I was taking up more more contests than I could possibly take in one day. So most of the people I have seen and I've talked to, they take one contest per day, but on the other hand, I was taking up like almost like maybe two contests and up solving more problems. So that was taking the majority of the time for me. So that is how I was managing my time.
So that competitiveness like added a good sense of
Yeah,
drive also for
definitely.
you.
Definitely. That competitiveness and dealing with like in contest, what happened is that you have to you will be presented with 3 or 4 unknown problems where you will have to like implement the concepts that you know. Suppose it's a concept from array. So in array you have some fixed concepts like so you can use sliding window concept, and you can use the concepts of binary search on an array. But then to implement those known concepts on unknown problems is a different task. It's a different challenge. So
Correct.
I would recommend taking up some virtual contests, because in those contests, when you face unknown problems, it kind of eases and relaxes you out during the interviews as well. So in the interviews, you won't get lead code hard. Definitely, you won't get lead code hard questions, but having a knowledge of lead code medium questions, it definitely does help, gives you an upper edge during the interviews.
Okay. Also, Abhijanan, like you had a bit of an understanding about DSA, as you also mentioned before. But a lot of students, we know, like they do not have an initial understanding. For them, like directly moving on to lead code might be a bit intimidating.
Right.
So, what would you recommend for them?
Right. For them, I would suggest like completely following the Sharpener curriculum. I've done all the assignments from level 0. It for me, it took me hardly a day to go up till module 3. That is still arrays. I completed all the modules, like module 1, the prerequisites, and which I felt was like it starts from ground zero for all novice programmers. So it kinds of gives you a better understanding. There are some good programs, like there are some good pattern solving problems which I found in the Sharpener portal. So which I had done because I was from that background. But then there were some other programs. In the Discord server, I have also seen people trying to discuss more on the pattern problems. So I mean, if you solve those problems, pattern problems include the basic concepts of for loops and like conditional statements and looping statements. So if you have a good grasp on the conditional and the looping statements, it gives you a firm understanding on how to solve programs. I mean the good coding questions. So I'm following the Sharpener curriculum blindly would definitely give you a good understanding on the concepts. That is what I would recommend for someone who is starting from ground zero.
Correct. And also like Abhigyan is one of the those people like who are who are always there to who is always there to help other people in the Discord channel, right? So people who don't know him, like he's the Abhi.xx guy on the Discord channel, and he's always there to help. So he's been helping a lot of people, and people are like, "Who's this guy? Who knows it all?"
At one
But
point
yeah,
of time,
one
I thought Weber and Yes, they changed the username, and one of them is Abhi. So I was really curious.
No, actually the username comes from my Instagram handle. So I mean I couldn't think of a different handle, so I just copy pasted that.
Nice. Also, like one key takeaway also was which I really liked about Abhiyan was like he maintains like a to-do list type of thing. So like he kind of figures out like what he's going to do throughout the day and works accordingly. So that's also one key takeaway which I think everyone can incorporate. Like basically prioritization. Like I'll be giving these many hours to say like DSA, then maybe going out somewhere and then doing like coming back because you obviously have your life going on as well, right? So yeah, like prioritizing things would make you basically make you very good with say like becoming more productive. Yeah, so that's one of the key takeaways which I want like all other students to take also, right? So yeah.
So I just want to ask one question
Yeah.
to Abhigan. So Abhigan, like when you started in college, so you were in mechanical, right?
Right.
So like how did you like come to know about coding and like when you started with coding initially, like what were the obstacles that you were facing, right? Didn't you think that okay, like let's take a core job or something, or let's stick to what we are studying right now and then we'll think about something else, like because 2 years down the lane no one thinks about that, right? Like say when you are in college particularly, so like were your friends like that or like how was it?
So if I had to say, then I would actually say that back in first year, so there was this one guy who was like right next to my hostel room, who was a good programmer. So he had a very good knowledge. He had done some major open source contributions, like back when he was in school. So that kind of like I used to go to his room, I used to talk with him, and I kind of understood the basics of what the open source contribution is, what a developer does in his or her like real day-to-day life. So that kind of like intrigued me, and that's how I started off. So I was like studying my mechanical course, and during the free time what I used to do was that I used to read up blogs. I have like a major subscription of all like free blog post services that are there on the internet, which teaches more about how large scale distributed systems work, what are the microservices architecture, and I'm mentioning these because some of these good companies which offer more than like 14 LPA ish, they tend to ask what I felt was like they did ask me somewhat about the how to maintain infrastructure, how to design microservices, what how do you design the database schemas, and how do you integrate those parts. So I felt that having a knowledge about these architecture patterns, the design patterns, did give me an upper hand during these interviews. Definitely they helped me.
Makes sense.
So yeah, so that's how I managed my time during my first year and second year with mechanical and CS.
Nice. So, Abhigan, like I wanted to understand, like, so regarding, like, can you like tell about the core structure, as in, like, what did you love about the course? Any key moments you remember, as in, like, with Sharpener, like, which you really loved about us?
Right. So in during the DSA, wherever we are, actually did help me a lot. Because I was doing like I was trying to complete the course as soon as I can. So I mean I was completing more than I think one module per day. So there were like some instances when I used to be stuck with a problem that I couldn't understand. And just one more thing, in lead code, you can also view a solution, but do not do that. Do not do that, because some of those programmers, they will have a certain way of interpreting those questions. They have certain shorthand techniques that if you are a beginner, you won't be able to understand. And mugging up a code according to a certain author or a certain programmer wouldn't help you. You cannot like memorize the questions. The interviewer might twist a question, and at that point you will be completely blank. So I would completely recommend you against it. Instead, you can ping the question to Vaibhav Bhaiya, and if you are stuck with development, then you can obviously ping up Yash Bhaiya. So they are always ready to help you. Even if they are busy with their work, they have like helped me a lot with these questions. So that really kind of felt really special. So more than my like more than teachers, they were like friends to me. So they were like constantly motivating me, and like to they were also like suggesting me that these are the most important questions, these are the most important concepts that you should know during an interview. So that is these are the basic main special moments that I had after I joined Sharpener.
Also, since the mentors are like also working in the industry, like did that help?
Yeah, definitely that does help. So one more thing, once you have mentors who are working in the good industries, it gives you an upper edge in understanding what is the tech stack that the current industry is using. So that and the course curriculum is structured in such a manner that what you are studying in Sharpener is used in a day-to-day life in wherever you get placed. Node.js or React. React is a major front-end framework. So from Facebook to major good companies, they use React frameworks for their front end. And Node.js is something, Node.js and Express like twin together forms the main backbone of the major IT companies right now. So definitely the course curriculum is structured in such a way that it helps you understand and gives you an upper edge during the interviews and during working in the industry. Definitely that helps a lot.
That's great. Abhinjan, like I think a lot of people want to know about the interview phase. As in, like, what was the interview phase once you were ready? Like, so what was the interview phase like? How many calls you were getting, and like, how was it like? Like, what was it like?
Okay. So during the interview phase, I used to get like almost on an everyday basis. I used to get an odd number of, let's say, 2 to 3 recruiters calling me every day. Almost somewhere around that number. But the thing is that I did sit for not many interviews, I guess. I remember that I sat for mainly those companies which were there in Bangalore. And Vaibhav Bhaiya and Yash Bhaiya used to tell me like treat the other interviews as you're playing. Let's say you're practicing. So I used to take those online assessments, and if there were online assessments, and other than that, if there were just interviews, I used to take up those interviews just to keep a practice for myself. So I remember I screwed up one interview, which was it was completely my mistake that I screwed up that interview, and I called Yash Bhaiya after that, and he kind of motivated me that these things will happen. You are definitely bound to screw up 1 or 2 interviews before you actually start like cracking good offers. So post that, actually, the companies which they cracked actually offered me better package than the company where I screwed up. So it's not a loss. I don't see a harm in that. So that's fine. It was a good practice for me as well. So post that interviews, I clearly remember that during a day or two, I had to take a leave from my current company because I had to most of these companies will have 2 or 3 technical rounds. So since they were moving at a very fast pace and they were trying to recruit new engineers very rapidly. So they were like placing three technical interviews back to back. So I had no other option than to take a leave. So I took a leave and then I managed those interviews. So I'll tell you something about Jasper Collin as well. So that offer, so the first initial technical rounds, I was asked with pretty simple array-based questions. So if someone has a good grasp on how to manipulate the arrays, how to manage with the concepts of pointers and how to point, how, let's say, you're trying to use two-pointer algorithms in finding something from an array. So if you have a good understanding of that, which obviously came from the Sharpener course curriculum, like those concepts would definitely help me a lot in the first interview round. So, and in the second interview round, they asked me lead code medium level on the concepts of binary search trees. So even that question was there in the not that exact question, but the somewhat the pattern of the question was there in the course curriculum. So by that time, I had given so many contests, I had practiced so many questions. I almost like those concepts were there on my mind. So I literally had to think. I had to act that I was thinking for 5 minutes to come up with the brute force and the medium and the most optimized approach. So that kind of helped me give, and by the time the second technical interview happened, I kind of understood that they were ready to give me an offer. Post that, they had a normal managerial interview, so which was pretty easy for me to handle because I had taken up interviews on that, so that was a cakewalk for me.
So yeah, like learning from interviews actually does help, right? So like
Definitely.
I have seen a lot of people who just keep like they keep on giving blindly interviews, and then like once I ask them like what mistake are you making, they say like everything is going good. There has to be some mistake or the other
Correct.
because of which you are getting rejected, right? Because the other person
Correct.
wants to hire. That is the reason why they are taking interviews. So that's something which is very, very important, right? Learn from your mistakes. Try to admit that you are doing a mistake. So yeah, that was one very good thing. So I remember Abhinjan, like we used to have calls like every 3-4 days. I used to ask his progress. So he used to tell me that these are the areas where he had done mistakes, and this is how he's practicing upon it. So that is very, very important. So
right.
yeah.
So that is one thing that I kind of like felt that was necessary. I mean, learning from the interviews is a very crucial thing. So doing a mistake is fine. If you're committing a mistake, that is fine in the first iteration, but then you're not supposed to make the same mistake twice in the second iteration. So it is advisable that you kind of develop and understand where you're going wrong and you try to fix that. So that is something that I implemented upon, and I found that it was working good for me. So even if I was committing more mistakes in some of the concepts, like Vaibhav and Yash Bhaiya used to tell me that if you get these type of questions, try to think in a different approach, try to implement it in this way. So that's how I kind of understood that, okay, so there are multiple ways of approaching a problem. And if you go by this method, this would give you a more optimized code or more optimized result. So that kind of did definitely help me in understanding where I was going wrong and how to work upon them.
That's great. But Abhigyan, I think you did not settle for the first offer. There were like more offers coming behind you.
So how much was Jasper Collin paying you? Like if you want to just disclose that and tell it to.
Jasper Collin was offering me somewhere around 12 LPA. Right. So, but the thing is that I was just taking the other interviews for fun because I was getting more problems to solve. So that is one thing that I wanted to face. That let's see what happens. I mean, hardly the worst that will happen is that they'll tell me that you're not selected. What can I go wrong in that? So I was taking up more interviews, and I think by the second week of Jasper Collin, I received a call from Nova Benefits, the company where I have joined. So it's a healthcare based startup. It recently did raise a Series A funding. So it's a good startup to work in. So I received a call from them that if you want to, you have been recommended, and if you would want to take up the interview. So I said, sure, why not? I mean, there is no harm in taking up the test. So at first there was an online assessment round, which again was not an issue for me, because obviously because of the obvious reasons. So post that, they came up with the first round. So they had, after online assessment, they had 3 technical interviews, and then one HR discussion. So the first interview was more or less on the front end and back end development. There were not many DSA questions that was asked. Also, with the front end and back end development, they did ask me quite a few questions on how the internet works in general. So if you should know the concepts on domain name service and how IP addresses are handled and how CDNs are handled, in so that I mean, obviously you must, as an engineer, as a computer engineer, you should be knowing how the protocols are handled in the real world scenario, right? So these were the basic questions that I was asked in my first interview, I mean the first round. And when I progressed to the second round, it was more or less on Node.js and JavaScript. This is one round where I was asked how to I was given some data DSS based problems, and I guess I had two DSA based problems, right? One was on recursive approach, one was a recursion based problem. It was probably LCS. There's a variation of LCS problems that you'll find in recursive approach. So it was a recursive solution. I did code it out in JavaScript. Also, one more thing. So if you are planning to work as a full stack developer, it is kind of, if you have not, like if you're starting from scratch, it is recommended to code to start coding in JavaScript. I think Weber and Yash have also started implementing it for the programmers who have started from ground zero, because mostly in interviews what happens is that they ask you to code it out in JavaScript. So if someone is from a Java or a C++ background, the person might get nervous during handling those problems. I mean, facing an interview in a completely new language, a JavaScript, where you have not given many interviews. So that is one point. That is one point where you might feel a bit nervous. So it is recommended that you start with JavaScript if you have not already started with other programming languages. Now, anyway, moving on to the question. So they had this recursion-based problems, and the other problem was a pure dynamic knapsack-based problem. So these two things were something that was covered in the curriculum again. So I knew how to solve these problems in the worst time complexity till up to the best time complexity. So I coded out all the 3 approaches. So that took up most of the time for me. So post that, there was not much time left. I was interviewed for like 1 hour and 15 minutes ish. So the last half an hour was left for to deal with JavaScript and how do you deal the asynchronous functions in JavaScript. So since the JavaScript concepts were dealt like very maturely in the Sharpener modules, so I had a firm understanding of how the asynchronous code is working, how the how the functions are dealt in the priority queues. Don't worry if you don't understand it right now, you will once you move to the
Yeah, kind of scaring
development
some people.
I'm definitely not scaring you off, but you'll find these modules there in the development section. So those concepts did definitely help me. So post the second interview, I think I got a call within the next half an hour or so that you have been selected for the final round of technical interview. And that technical round of interview was a whiteboarding session where I was given, let's say I have to build a feature in this app. I have certain database schemas available with me. How would I build a feature that does certain work for me? I mean, builds a certain feature in the app. So I had to like chalk it out in the whiteboarding session. I mean, treat it. I mean, don't just think that you would have to build the entire thing from scratch. The interviewer you are interviewing with is there to help you. He will give you hints. He will give you certain ideas on which you just have to catch those ideas, that you have to receive those ideas as, okay, so if I am implementing this in this way, if that is the ground level, how can I build the next feature on top of that? So if you use that knowledge, I think that the system design interview rounds are pretty easy to manage. So that's about it. After that, I kind of understood that the interviewer was happy with what I had answered. So post that, I had the managerial round, where it was more or less on the to understand how I work, how is my learning curve, how I plan out my learning curve, and how how I react when I'm facing new challenges and problems. So that was like that is not very difficult to manage. You just have to be very honest with the interviewer. That's all about it.
Awesome. That was, I think, very extensively explained.
Moreover,
Yeah,
like,
yes.
moreover, like I'll tell you the story what happened after that. Okay, like when Abhigyan got the offer, I got a call from Ekta, like the HR from the Jasper College. Okay, and she's like, Abhigyan is not joining. What is it like? So I told her simply that, see, like it's more likely, see, it's up to him. Like we'll not force our students to join any company like that. Okay, like it's up to him. He's done his research. We can definitely give you more students, like students like have the same caliber. But yeah, it's up to the student moreover. It's up to his discretion. Ki whichever company he wants to take, he's done his research. He'll take the right company, right? So she was like, no, ऐसे तो नहीं होता है. But then I gave her someone else, and then yeah, फिर वो शांत हुई.
We have a very open agreement with our HRs. Like, if if our students feel like there is a better offer out there, then we'll never force them to take that. In fact, I think, again, if I'm not wrong, like after you completed the projects and stuff in the initial modules, like we kind of helped you build a good profile, and you were getting a lot of calls on your own, including Nova.
Definitely. The projects that there are there in the curriculum would definitely give you an upper edge during the interviews. Most of the interviews like started with, so I have seen you have done these interesting projects. I want you to go and explain more about this project and how you have implemented this feature. So since I was doing those projects very religiously, and I was asking more doubts on this project, so that kind of helped me in having a clear understanding on what are the details that are there in the project. So that definitely helps in the interviews. Having a good profile with good number of projects definitely gives you an upper edge. Definitely it does.
All right. Also, like the companies you were referring and everything, and of course, we were checking the JD and everything. But now that you also had a good profile, you were getting a lot of calls. So apart from the package, of course, that's a very driving factor. But do you also evaluate the GD? Do you look at the companies? Is that?
Yes, definitely. For me, more than the compensation that I am being provided with, I feel it is important that I should enjoy what I am working on. That I should really, my work shouldn't like bore me on a day-to-day basis. It should be a driving factor for me to get out of bed and to start like open my laptop and start programming, or to think about some problem. So that is one major thing that I see while I am applying for jobs. So the JDs kind of gives you a brief outlook about how a company approaches in like solving problems, and what are the current problems that a company is facing. And on top of that, you obviously have Google, so you can definitely research on the company as much as you want. So this is one tip that I would actually like to give, like before your am I not audible?
Yeah,
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 you are audible.
Okay, it might be someone just texted that you're not audible. Anyway, so before like going to the interview, it is always recommended that you should know some details about the company, what is the products that they're building, some financial statistics maybe, and if you can somehow get like know more about the features that are there in the product. So these are the key points which kind of will give you an better edge. So when you're having a on call discussion, if you try to express yourself that you know about the product, you know about the features that are there available in the product, it kind of like shows that you have done your research. It gives you an upper edge in to the recruiters in showing that you are interested, you're really interested in like getting the job, and you're not someone who is like just doing this for fun and like just randomly sitting for interviews.
Correct. And then one more thing, like when Abhigyan was giving so many interviews, so like he actually asked us, like there are 2-3 interviews that is happening on everyday basis. Uh, so what I told him was, see, like attend to every HR call. Okay, so like we basically like we're getting so many HR calls, and everywhere we had forwarded Abhigyan's resume. So like we told like Abhigyan to answer each and every HR, and then just give the interview, right? Just give the interview, just research something about the company, give the interview, and once you get selected, that is when you can actually do your actual research. Okay, actual research about how much funded they are, like what product or what tech stack they'll make you work on, and then you can decide whether to take this offer or not, right? So don't decide on the very first day or the first interview, because say if it's possible that you might very deliberately desperately want to go in that company, but the company might not choose you, right? So it's very, very important that you like research, but like not also in that depth that like you get rejected and then you feel sad, right? So give the interview, get selected, and then that is when you can actually research like more and more about what the company is, like what the tech stack and all everything is. So
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
So
If you have any questions, I was about to take student questions. Although we've answered most of them, just one I think Sambit has been asking multiple times.
sure.
Sambit, I wanted to know about front-end development. So, like, I think this is a common question that people have. There's a conception that DS is zarurat nahi hai. Front-end is just about like painting and designing. So,
Yeah.
like, what is your take on that?
Okay. So DSA is important, definitely is important. And if you are going with an outlook that you want to go as a full stack engineer, backend development is absolutely crucial. And apart from that, you should have a basic knowledge on how to deal with front end frameworks. You should definitely, because if you're a full stack engineer, if you were a backend engineer, I would not say that you would need topics on React or something of that sort. I mean, personally, I did not like learn React. I was mainly learning on the backend. But during the interview, what happened was that during one of my internships, so I actually had to work on a front end framework. So I had a little bit of knowledge of basic React hooks and how to deal with the what do you call the React frameworks. So I had very basic knowledge of React. So I brushed up on that and I went to the interview. So definitely that basic knowledge did help. So if you are like not keen on learning backend development, then that's fine. If you will be like probably having more expertise on the front end frameworks, then so it is, if in that case front end frameworks, knowing front end framework is very important. And front end framework, it's not just about designing, it's about how you manage the responsiveness of the app. So in that case, you must know how the internal JavaScript engine is working. So that is one thing that front end engineers, like most of the front end engineers, might neglect in the beginning. But once they get stuck with while building the app, they try to learn it on that on that position. So I would recommend that having basic knowledge of front end is really good. It's I mean, there are a lot of resources out there on the internet as well, and on I mean, if you ping Vaibhav or Yash, they'll definitely help you with the PDFs and the documentations. And if you want some extra classes as well, they are absolutely, they have already helped me with the front end as well, a bit on the front end part. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, and also guys, like one thing to add is DSA is super important. Okay, like in the interview, like be it of front end, be it of back end, they'll ask you 50% DSA. Okay,
Yeah,
50%
absolutely,
is DSA.
absolutely.
पहला round ही clear नहीं होएगा.
Yeah, or else like if you want to go for those shitty jobs which pay 3-4 lakh rupees, उसके लिए yeah, you can just go.
उसके लिए DSA क्या है? उसके लिए you just need to speak for 5 minutes. They just want to see that if you can speak and if you can type. That's all. Anyway, moving on to the DSA part. So I don't feel like you have to like you should be knowing you should be solving like Code Chef or at coders problems. So those are heavily towards the competitive programming. So interview the questions that they ask in interview problems and competitive programming is there is a lot of difference between the two sectors. So what happens in interviews is that they see if you know the concept well, and in competitive programming, they take up the level by let's say by 10x. They more than concepts, they will see if you can understand. I mean, they will frame the questions in such a format that it becomes very difficult to understand which are the particular concepts that you would have to implement. And most of the competitive programmers, what they do is that they have certain templates which are already built. They have already built. So what they do is they just copy paste those templates and make minor modifications so that they get the most optimized code. But if you do that in the interviews, first of all, they'll not allow you to copy anything from anywhere. And even if you try to do that, they will definitely like not move you to the second round. So that is the main thing you should know while taking up these interviews.
All right. A common question that we get, Abhinjan, is for freshers and especially for those from a non-tech, non-CSE who, like yourself, also people who are studying like BCA, BSc, etc., etc. Basically, people who have no idea of coding whatsoever.
Right.
So, what should their first point of start be? I know you said like start with the Sharpener modules, but from a mental strategy perspective, how should they approach things?
Okay, so their first mental strategy with I would suggest is, since I kind of rely a lot on YouTube as well, so I would definitely suggest look up something on the internet. There are a lot of free videos, free resources. If you're not if you don't like reading much on the internet, go with the videos. Watch, even if it's your free time, you're watching something for your recreation, watch some videos for first 5 minutes or maybe 5-6 minutes. If you like that video, go ahead with it. It is also important to make certain notes. And if you maybe, let's say you're starting with the basics of programming, so basics of programming would mean that you should know how flowchart works, how you design a flowchart. And also these things, designing a flowchart, it might seem a bit outdated, but what happens in programming is that you're designing nothing but flowcharts. You're creating simple instructions for a computer or the compiler to follow, which is nothing but a simple flowchart to follow. So having a good understanding on how to design these key crucial points would definitely help you become a good programmer. So I would suggest that start off with the Sharpener modules, and then in parallel to that, watch videos on YouTube, read some articles. There are some, I'm not sure about the name of the game. There is another game on the internet. I can look that up and post it on the Discord server as well if anyone wants it. It also kinds of helps you in understanding like the concepts of what for some value I equals 0, I less than some value, and then I plus plus exactly mean, and these key crucial concepts. So these things definitely does help you in building a very like firm knowledge in programming. These things definitely does help.
Yeah, because I'll be interested more in that game so that I can introduce it to my
Yeah. Sure.
fellow people. Yeah,
Sure. I'll
yeah,
send it to you.
yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's
There's some questions around like sharpness working on that, which is not specifically pertaining to Abhigyan, but just to tell you, like even for those who joined very late, I still see people joining in, etc. So like Abhigyan himself is not from a CS or IT background, but he's worked himself uh, really aggressively. He was sharing that he's up till 3 o'clock and working hard and everything, and that's how he reached where he is. All right. So those questions, like sharpness specific questions, I think we can take it up separately. You can call up any mentor or people who you interact with. All right. Okay. Nitin is also a mechanical engineer, and he wants to know basically that like you when you're interviewing, when you're interacting with people on the platform somewhere else, like you might come across people from a CS or IT background.
Right.
So do you feel ever that kind of a FOMO or something, or do you feel like, arey, you miss out ho gaya, they might be superior, anything of that sort?
I wouldn't say that I haven't felt that. Since I am from mechanical, I mean I have this habit of overthinking a lot. So I always like go with this outlook that I might make a fool out of myself. I always have this. So but then it turns out that a lot of computer science engineers don't know like a lot of the concepts that I, as a being a mechanical engineer, know. So I mean it's fine, it happens. I mean, even if you don't know, there is no harm in not knowing something. You might not know a lot of things, but then you can definitely learn it in a day or two. So I mean, having a FOMO, I mean, it kinds of like I feel that having a FOMO kind of blocks your learning curve. It kind of restricts and bounds your learning curve and your learning speed, and it kinds of like boosts your what do you say, maybe your overthinkingness, if that's a word. I mean, I would definitely suggest that have an open mind. There might be engineers who are better than you, then there will be someone or the other who is better than you. Learn something from them, and if there is someone who you are better than, then teach them something. I mean, the community grows in this way. So this is that is the main reason why I contribute so much in the Discord server, because I feel that okay, so this is how I am trying to look at a problem, but there might be another approach which might be better than my approach. So in order, if I'm discussing something, I might get a better outlook towards a certain problem. So a couple of days back, there was this one problem I remember from backtracking. So there was this one problem that was being discussed in the Discord group. So someone suggested that the simple solution was that if you subtract -1 from the entire answer, you would get the correct answer in all cases. So that is true. That is definitely true. So, but then I had a different approach when I was solving the problem when I was in sharpness. So that also, I learned a lot of concepts. I mean, if the other person who was not able to think it in a recursive fashion, he also got understood my approach in. So that is why I contribute so much to these platforms.
Interesting. By the way, Nitin thinks you're kind of mechanical now.
Yeah.
Just to tell you that.
So that's the thing. I have forgotten most of the things that I shouldn't be saying this, but I've forgotten most of the things that I've learned in my 4 years of mechanical engineering.
All right. Subhashis was asking about, so Subhashis, like Abhigyan already shared, like whenever he used to face a complex problem, like flowcharts was something that used to really help him a lot when he was answering questions and all that. But I'm sure, like Abhigyan, there must be some questions which during the interview you were not, like you knew that you were not clear on those concepts. So were you upfront and just telling the interviewer, or like were you a bit diplomatic and at least trying it out?
Yes, definitely. Do not just, I mean, if you will definitely face some of the other problem, which you might feel that, okay, I'm not getting anything about this problem. I do not understand. I understand zero about this problem. So in that position, you should ask the interviewer that what is the outcome. You should ask basic questions in understanding what the program is trying to, how the program is trying to work, how the outputs are being returned from the program. So these are the basic things that you should ask. And by the time you ask the interviewer will frame his answer, his or her answers in such a fashion that you will kind of understand that if you like listen to what the interviewer is saying, you will understand that the interviewer is trying to provide you with certain number of hints. You just need to grasp on that hints and start thinking from that point. But I don't think you would completely blank out on any problem. If you completely blank out on any problem, just start with a basic brute force. I mean, a lot of times there are certain problems which cannot be optimized. Like those are problems, they generally don't ask it in the interviews, but then there are certain problems which cannot be improvised. The NP hard problems. So those like they have to be solved using the most inefficient ways, but the inefficient ways are the only solution that you can have to those problems. So um, so basically that's about it. So just don't just leave out a problem. Even if you can't think about it, just go with a blank brute force approach instead of just leaving it out. So that is my strategy in solving some problems.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. All right. There are a couple of other questions. Pujari, by the way, you wanted to know if, like, apart from Sharpener material, what other stuff that Abhigyan can refer to. So he already answered that, and some of the links he'll be kind enough to share with us, which Weber will share with you guys for the data structure module. Yeah, yes, I don't see any other questions. By the way, a lot of you joined a bit late, so we'll anyway share the recording. Initially, Abhigyan gave a lot of details which I think you guys missed, so we'll be happy to share the recording. And Yash, Weber, anything further?
That's good enough from my end.
All right.
And I think Rohan and Ashutosh have a question. Rohan, he's asking Abhigyan's passing out here. That's I think 2021, right?
Yes,
Abhigyan?
yes, I passed out. I graduated in 2021. Yes.
And have we to solve every question by different approach every time? Okay. No.
Not every question will have different approach. I don't think so. It's possible, but it's good to discuss. Good to have a healthy discussion between programmers to approach. I mean, there are some. Let's say you are trying to solve a problem using unordered. Let's say you're implementing the program in C++. So if you're trying to like implement unordered map and you're having certain time complexity in fetching the data from the unordered map, and if someone has a better approach which will solve the extraction issue in a lesser time complexity, so that kind of helps in optimizing your code. So that is the different kind of optimization that you can do. Not every problem that you'll see will have multiple ways of solving, that's for sure.
So you don't have to solve by different approaches. Like you have to see, it's good to know different approaches. It will actually help you like not stay in that normally that okay, kuch hota hi nahi aur, right? But then yeah, like if you are able to solve it in one approach, and if you know that approach well, that you can apply in other questions also, right? Then it's good to go. You don't have to think so much, right? And there is one problem which I have seen for a lot of students is like they always tend to look out for an optimized solution. Okay? So some questions you ask the interviewer only, like give him a brute force solution, ask him whether there has to be an optimized solution or not, right? You just have to think from a nomad brain, right? Like that there is no optimized solution. Just give him a question, okay? And then he will ask you that, okay, can you optimize it more, right? And then you think of a more optimized version, right? Because there is no end to this, right? Even n square there can be n, that and n ka bhi, it can be log n solution which can be there, right? So always interact, okay? Don't make it like don't take his job, right? Don't take interviewer's job from him. Okay. Instead, communicate, right? Communicate, have a healthy communication. Okay, and he'll give you a lot of hints, right? Whatever he's telling, try to listen to him properly. Okay, so that will actually turn as a hint to you.
So, in like to reiterate that, so in one of the interviews, I was asked a problem on Kadane's algorithm, so maximum subarray sum, where I had to implement the Kadane's algorithm. So, what I did was that, so this is one problem that is there in the initial array modules of Sharpener, right? So I actually at that point I did ask Vaibhav that should I implement it in like a brute force manner or should I just directly go with the Kadane's algorithm? And at that point he said that you don't need to implement Kadane's over here. Just go with the blank brute force method for now. And I mean in the following modules when we will reach up to the level, we will definitely you implement the Kadane's algorithm. So that is something that I did since I had practiced the brute force method at that point. I kind of I mean I remembered that it could have been solved using 3 for loops, and that was the worst time complexity O of n cube. And then if you're like removing the final for loop, so that brings it down to O of n square. And then the best option is to like use it you use the Kadane's algorithm. So
Correct.
I mean if you state all these 3 approaches during an interview, it also helps the interviewer understand that okay, you are just not memorizing the solutions, you know how to arrive from point A to point B. So your interviewer should know that you are trying to optimize it, and you know the basic concepts of optimization and how it works.
Yeah, that was a great explanation, I think so. Yeah.
All
So,
right. I think that wraps up most of the questions. As I said, I'll share the lecture. But on a final note, begin any final words of wisdom?
Any final words of wisdom from me? I think you should just like keep working, keep working. I think that kind of um, helps if you're lacking from anything. I mean, if even if you're not from a CS background, if you try to, I mean, if you work hard enough, you can break any barrier, which I think I have seen in my case. And lot of my I mean a lot of my friends, I mean they are stuck with their core jobs, the core company jobs, even if they want to shift to a different IT sector, but then because they take everything. I mean obviously it's obviously important to enjoy life. I'm not telling you to stop enjoying your life and start working 24 hours in a day. That is not completely not recommendable. So but then start reading up a lot of there are a lot of free resources on the internet. Read up a lot of articles, try to implement new things. And also one thing that I would recommend is that follow a schedule that kind of actually helps me in maintaining balance between DSA and development. So one thing that I would say that once you move out from DSA, do not stop practicing DSA problems. I mean, even if you're not exploring newer problems, go back to the old problems that you have solved. Also, maintain a notebook where you are kind of like keeping a notes for yourself, like how you're thinking about the problem, what is the best optimal solution, what is the worst optimal solution. Maintain a notebook for yourself. And I mean go back to these problems once you move out from DSA. Make some time for DSA, maybe 1.5 hour. 1.5 hour is not much and can be afforded. So like follow those questions, try to solve those questions. You will find a lot of questions that you can think from, you'll be able to think from level 0, but there will be a lot of questions that you won't be able to think it out. You might get a brute force solution, but you won't be able to get the optimized solution. Spend some time with the problems, and then like move to see the solution that you have written in your notebook. So I think that kind of helps a lot. So that's the word of wisdom from my end, I guess.
So that was pretty good. That was pretty good. In fact, I'll request you, like, you can write a blog post or something and we post it everywhere. We'll also add it to the must read section of Sharpener.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can do that. I can definitely create a blog post.
Awesome.
Sure. Also, if anyone needs any resources, they can personally ping me, or they can ping me in the Discord chat, and I'll be happy to help. I have collected a lot of resources. So I used to read a lot of books and PDFs that are there on the internet. So I have those things with me right still now. So if anyone wants, I'd be happy to help. Yeah, that's from my end.
Fantastic. You heard it, people. Right. Yeah, I guess that's it. Abhigan, like, of course, you'll be in touch with all the students in
Yeah,
Discord.
definitely.
People will be reaching out to him, pretty sure. And yeah, thank you for being with us today. It was great interacting with you and discussing with you your journey.
Likewise.
I'm getting messages from people. Thank you for conducting such a session. It was very informative and stuff. I'm like, thank Abhijan. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abhigan. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.